Hello everyone, and welcome to Stories with me, Jesse. Today's stories come from the unsung heroes over at Reddit/talesfromretail. Let me know what you think of these stories in the comments, and feel free to provide your own suggestions for anything I should feature in a future video. Hold on to your shopping carts, and please walk to the right of the aisle, because we're getting started now. Our first story is titled, Exactly 45 Detergent Bottles and One Determined Dumbass. It was back in December of last year, and I was working over winter break, as I always do. Christmas had just passed, and it was the slow stretch between then and New Year's. Nothing exciting was really happening, so we had loads of time to do extra tasks we almost never had time for otherwise between the daily rushes. It was during one of these rushes that this occurred, and I only know the parts I didn't witness directly from video recordings and others who were directly involved. I was checking for a customer when I hear this altercation near the customer service desk. Not anything super unusual, as we do get some customers around holiday seasons who are verbally aggressive with those working the desk. When I looked over, I saw a lady with a duffel bag and a cart full of detergent bottles arguing with one of the grocery managers about something. I wasn't too sure about it at the time since I had to focus on my own task, so I ignored it for the time being. About 15 minutes later, the lady seemed to have abandoned all her items, and I managed to spot some cops looking around in the store. I began to suspect the lady had either assaulted someone or attempted theft and left. I ended up being right on both of those assumptions. But as the rush was ending, a visibly amused man came into my lane. I greet him, and our interaction was as follows. Did you see that dumbass up front earlier? Oh, the one arguing with the grocery manager? Yeah, she tried to steal a bunch of detergent. I have a video too. I can show you. Initially, I didn't want to indulge too much, but my line was non-existent and his order was large enough for me to multitask without looking like I'm wasting time. Okay, sure. He shows me a couple videos on his phone of the event, one during the argument and the other a while after. The lady had apparently come back into the store to try and steal at least one of the bottles, but the grocery manager was already carting them away. She tried to wrestle him for the cart, snagged a detergent bottle, and only made it 5 feet before the grocery manager took the bottle back. The whole time, this guy's laughing his ass off about the whole thing. I immediately thought, wow, that's a special kind of stupid to come back while the cops were still here. I had finished this transaction by then. She really came back in? Yeah, she thought she could sneak around the cops. After he paid, we said goodbye and the rush was basically over, so I could resume taking care of small tasks between the occasional customer. It wasn't too long before one of my coworkers who'd been closer to the whole thing asked me if I'd seen it. I explained that I'd watched a video from a customer, and then my coworker explained the parts I'd missed. She had tried to steal exactly 45 bottles of detergent in her basket and a duffel bag at self-checkout by only scanning a random item, thinking that the supervisor wasn't paying attention. The grocery manager was called almost immediately, and the supervisor froze the stand to stall while he made his way over. The lady began to argue with the supervisor and tried to get around to the front door, but the supervisor kept blocking her. Once the grocery manager had arrived, the arguing got more intense and brought closer to the customer service desk where I had initially picked up on it. The cops had been called at some point, and the lady bailed without anything into the parking lot to hide from the cops. When she thought everything was clear, she came back in to try and steal the same detergent by assaulting the grocery manager, but he had stopped her. Not sure if she was arrested or not, but she'd promptly ran out of the store with a couple of cops on her tail. I highly suspect she was going to try and sell the detergent online, since most of them were name brand and large. I'd honestly like to say that this kind of situation shocks me, but in all my years of retail, these kinds of pathetic shoplifters become more and more commonplace. I've heard of stealing a loaf of bread to feed your family, but there's absolutely no excuse for this kind of behavior. Ugh. Moving on, our next story is titled, You know, sir, I don't think that thong is your style. I have been a lurker for a very long time, but this is my first post. Sorry for any mistakes, but at the end of the day, I don't care. A little information to start. I am female and at the time about 20 years old. I am a huge smart aleck that for the most part doesn't care what others think of me. Anyway, on to the story. I used to work at the retail store that loves blue. For the most part, I worked in frozen and dairy, which I loved because I am the type of person that can be in about 35 degrees in shorts and a t-shirt all day long. But occasionally, they would have me work as a cashier. One day, I was cashiering for a couple of hours and was finally able to go on break and back to my department. How our store was set up was that there was 5 large aisles that run from the front of the store all the way to the back, with the middle one cutting the clothing department in half. The men's section on one side and the women's on the other. Right in the middle were the changing rooms. One day, as I was walking down the center aisle on my way to break, just as I was passing the changing rooms, which was very busy, when a gentleman, now known as G, stopped me to ask a question. For context, this happened in an area that is very conservative and still has a lot of farmers, and one of the biggest things we are known for is our rodeos. This G who stopped me looked to be in his 40s and was a full-on cowboy. Wrangler jeans, cowboy hat and boots, handlebar mustache, the works. This conversation happened about 6 years ago, so it's not verbatim. "Hey, do you have this in my size?" I look down and see in his hands he is holding a neon green thong. Without missing a beat, I said, "You know, sir, I'm not sure if we do or not. I usually work in frozen dairy. Sorry." "Well, do you know if they have different types or different colors?" "I'm not sure. I have to admit, I think that one with more frills would probably be more your style." "I was thinking a pink or a red would be better." "I wouldn't recommend pink or red, but that's just me. I like greens and blues." We went on for about 5 minutes just talking about what style/color would look best on the G. Finally, he said, "Thank you for your help." "No problem, and if you want to know where they have your size, I would recommend talking to the ladies at the changing room because they know the clothing section a lot better." We said goodbye and parted ways. I laughed so hard when I got to the break room. The entire time he and I were talking, there was a teenage girl standing behind him. I assumed she was his daughter or something. She was just watching and listening, but wasn't shocked or horrified. This made me think that this was something she had to do for a class. When I was in high school, I took psychology, and one of our homework assignments was to break a social norm, i.e., pick your nose in public. I always assumed this was what it was because we were the closest blue supermarket to that high school at the time. I know it's not super exciting, but it still makes my day every time I think about it. You know, there's a reason why people of Walmart.com exists. True individuals who aren't afraid of social stigmas be welcome. Our final story is titled, My Most Surreal Customer Story. I have worked for my craft store company for a few years and have managed to work my way up to assistant manager. This story is from several years ago when I was just a lowly cashier, and it makes me laugh every time I tell it. It was about an hour before closing time, and we were very quiet. I was the only cashier scheduled and was stationed at the register furthest from the queuing area. As I was with a customer, a woman in her mid-40s was next in line. When it was her turn at the register, she stomps up and slams her items on the counter hard enough that most of them bounced off. After I scramble to pick her things up and get them scanned in, she looks at the price that they're ringing up, and this is where it really gets started.
"That hole punch is supposed to be 50% off."
"I'm sorry, but this particular brand is excluded from the sale. I can run back and grab one of the ones that are on sale for you if you'd like." She grunts her approval. I go and get her the hole punch and tell her her new total. This is when she discovers that she's slightly short, about 75 cents, but she doesn't want to take anything off. "We aren't busy and there's no one behind you. If you have any money in your car or something, I can hold the transaction open for you if you don't mind." So she goes to get some change. When she comes in, this time, once again, she slams it on the counter hard enough it bounces. I was prepared this time and managed to catch it. As I'm entering her amount paid is when she starts.
"You're really rude, I hope you know that."
Me, taken aback because I thought I had been perfectly friendly. "I'm sorry you feel that way, ma'am."
I saw you with your hands all over your mouth when you called me up.
For the record, no. At most, I maybe scratch the side of my nose, as that's a tic I have.
I hope your manager knows what a rude girl she's hired.
To that one, I just silently handed her her receipt and her bag, as there was nowhere productive this was going to go. As she left and walked towards the door, she turned around and said my favorite thing a customer has ever said to me.
You're ugly too.
TLDR, I'm a rude girl, and I'm ugly too. Being in retail myself, I'm actually more surprised when a customer is kind and understanding to my role in the company I work for. But I guess rudeness really is unfortunately par for the course in this field of work. Anyways, that's all the time we have for today, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you once again for tuning in. My name is Jesse, and I hope you enjoyed today's video. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more Reddit content coming your way. We've got more exciting things in the works for you guys, so stick around, and we hope to see you soon.